Hey everyone, I'm Heather and welcome back to my channel. So we are back today with the Radiants. In the last one we went to our first club meeting, did our initiation, felt something cold and heard a voice, but it was kind of brushed off as imagination. So now we are part of the Mystery Club and we are starting our next day of class. So let's go ahead and get started. I arrived back to my room, another day at Sarenvale complete. I put my thoughts on hold and drift off to sleep, excited for what tomorrow may bring. I'm pretty excited about today's history lesson. To me, it's like learning about a whole new fantasy world, except it's not fantasy at all. However, as I'm taking notes, I am distracted by a couple of students whispering behind me. So what happened to Mr. Tanner anyways? The old history professor? Didn't he just retire? No, I heard he just disappeared. No one knows where he is. That's not right. I heard he was involved in some sort of animal attack and has to take the year off. Animal attack? Was it a Therian? Ladies, do you have something interesting to share with the class? The girls behind me stop whispering immediately as Professor Mordain focuses his attention on them. No, Professor. Gossip is natural, especially amongst youth. But don't let those rumors run away with you, okay? Yes, sir. The professor turns around and continues with his lecture. The girls start whispering again, softer this time. How did he hear us? Does anyone know his race? No, apparently no one knows except the headmaster. That kind of makes him more interesting, huh? Gods, don't start crushing on another teacher. We had enough trouble with the last one. The girls settle into silence and I can finally concentrate on the lesson. However, their conversation has me thinking. It seems I'm not the only one who's dying to know the powers of everyone around here. Why would someone keep their race and abilities a secret? Or perhaps it's not a secret, but rather no one has bothered to ask. In any case, the girls have gotten me suddenly curious about Professor Mordain's abilities in particular. Time for today's elective class. Geomancy. Geomancy is translated to foresight by Earth and is essentially a method of divination using markings created in the sand. While this method was used by humans and Radiants alike for many years, it is not the most reliable form of divination. Magic control +4, magic power +4. That was our new one, I believe. Classes are over for the day, and I'm considering having a quiet night and catching up on my studies, but then I noticed the numbers scrawled on the back of my hand. I had tried to scrub them off last night, but whatever ink Gray had used must have super staying power. Of course, I haven't forgotten about the party Gray had invited me to, but I'm still uncertain if attending is a good idea. On the one hand, it would be my first real social event since I started attending Sarenvale. On the other hand, I'm not sure I trust Gray. Plus, if I get caught in the E-storm after hours, it could mean demerits for me. The last thing I need is to rack up those demerits and get kicked out of the school for good. Instead, I could use this time to catch up on my studies. What should I do? Let's go to the party. Maybe I'll peek into the party, just for a few minutes. If it's terrible, I'll just leave. No harm done. Just as I made up my mind, Rayla burst into the room, dumping her books on the floor and immediately flopping onto her bed. Long day? You have no idea. Do these teachers know that what they do could be considered abuse? I mean, really. So, I suppose you wouldn't be interested in going with me to a party then? Rayla sits up from her sprawled position, eyes immediately alight. Did you say party? I did. Some guy named Gray is having it in his room. Gray? Oh, that guy's bad news. Of course I want to go. But you just said he was bad news. And that's why it is definitely going to be a great party. Rayla jumps off her bed and drags me to a standing position. Wow, you'd think you were the one who was trying to convince me to go. I practically am, considering you're still not moving. Okay, but only if we're careful. We're not supposed to be in the East Storms after dark, right? Oh, don't worry. I'm kind of an expert in stealth. We're not going to get caught. Well, it's not as if I hadn't already been trying to convince myself to go before she arrived. I concede and allow her to drag me out of the room. As we tiptoe silently through the hall, my curiosity gets the best of me, and I have to ask. So earlier you said Gray was bad news. What did you mean by that? Shh, keep your voice down. Our stealth tactics don't work if you're yelling. I definitely wasn't yelling, but I lower my voice anyways. So what's so bad about him? I don't really know him. It's just what I've heard. He's your typical player type, you know, gets a lot of girls to fall for him, then drops them. Somehow this news doesn't surprise me. Gray had no trouble flirting with me during our first meeting, despite having no idea who I am. Rayla side-eyes me. You're not interested in him, are you? It's too soon to tell. I don't really know. I barely know him. Well, just don't fall too hard. As far as I know, he doesn't really do relationships. And yet the girls still throw themselves at him? I guess he just has that effect on people, but you're a smart girl. You won't go crazy like the rest of them, right? Of course not. Oh wait, I think this is it. We stop at a door and I look at the number written on my hand, 403. Yep, this is it. The hallway's dark, but I can hear voices coming from within. It's not super loud, though. Maybe this is a much smaller party than Gray had let on. Rayla knocks and the door cracks open. The sound of constant chatter and music immediately pours out of the room. These walls must be extra soundproof to contain all this racket. An unfamiliar face appears at the crack in the door. Who is it? Rayla and Heather. The door closes in response and I look at Rayla, confused. Did we just get rejected? Impossible. Then the door opens again and Gray appears, grin on full display. He looks as handsome as always, but I notice he also looks a little tired. Maybe he pulled an all-nighter or something. My little toxic one, what a lovely surprise. I just knew you wouldn't be able to resist sneaking out to visit my little shindig. Toxic one? Rayla whispers in my ear from behind me. Don't ask. Gray ushers us quickly into the room and closes the door behind us. This room is much larger than the one I share with Rayla. It features a decent-sized common area with 2 smaller bedrooms off to each side. Gray waves his arm dramatically, as if presenting the room to us. Welcome to my humble abode. And you've brought me a gift. Gray's eyes are on Rayla, and he takes her hand into his and bows dramatically. Who is this lovely creature? Rayla takes her hand out of his and wipes it on her skirt. Save it, pretty boy. You're not my type. That actually makes me want you more. I interrupt, hoping to stop this nauseating display. Gray, this is Rayla, my roommate. Any friend of Heather's is a friend of mine. Make yourself at home. Mi casa es su casa, as the humans say. However, I'm afraid I must attend to some of my other guests, but we'll talk later. He says this last bit to me directly. Attend to his guests? Really? The way he's acting, you think this was some fancy dinner party and not a dorm room thrasher. Gray saunters away from us and is immediately surrounded by a group of giggling girls who have obviously been anxiously waiting his return. Guess I know what he meant by attending to his guests. I turn away from them and look around the room. There are a lot of people here, which is impressive in such a small room. I just got here, but I already need to freshen up. It's so hot in here, I feel like I just ran a marathon. Go ahead, I'll catch up with you. It's not like I'll lose you in a dorm room, even if it is packed with people. Never say never around here. I look around for any familiar faces and notice Kai from alchemy class, as well as a less welcome sight, Sindra. I can't talk to her, I guess because we're not friends. Let's talk to Kai. I wonder if there's a possibility, like what you would have to do to be able to talk to her. Let's talk to Kai. Kai seems like the safest option of conversational companions in this place. I weave through the crowd towards him, and he gives me a winning smile as they approach. You're maybe the last person I expected to appear at a party like this. You know so little about me, oh human one. Maybe I secretly love trolling about Rich Boy's ridiculous room parties in my spare time. Rich Boy? You don't even know whose party you're attending? That's some real party dedication. I like your style. I mean, I know this is Gray's room. Yeah, he's the rich boy. His dad practically funds this school. Well, I guess that explains how he's able to stay here without actually attending classes. And why he has this large room. I'm pretty sure his dad is on the Radiant Council. For someone who hasn't attended this school much longer than I have, you sure seem to know a lot. I have eyes and ears everywhere, my friend. That is how you truly get ahead in life. Observation. Which is actually part of why I'm here. You know, to observe. And what have you found out so far, Mr. Observer? That these parties are really, really dull. Oh, come on, it's not so bad. Better than studying, right? Good point. I think I'll need to bring you along to all my observations. Does that make me an observational assistant? Sure, Heather, honorary OA. Non-paid position, of course. Of course. Speaking of observing, I see a couple of my classmates over there about to get into a brawl. I glance in the direction Kai is looking and notice two very muscular-looking guys that look like they're about to start slugging each other at any minute. Rhodolites, they have a tendency to get a little over-physical at times. They'll hit each other over anything, probably fighting over whose haircut is the coolest. Aren't you a Rhodolite? Only because they don't know where else to put me. Hey, I'm going to see this action close up. You should go mingle, new girl, chat, frolic, whatever young people do these days. You say that as if you aren't a young person yourself. Foxes mature faster than normal. At least that's the excuse I'm going with. See you later, Kai. He practically scampers off towards the action, and I decide to take his advice and mingle. As I mill about the party, a guy approaches me with a tray filled with oddly elegant-looking drinks. Once again, I feel the strangeness of formality in this room party. Can I offer you a beverage? I eye the drink suspiciously, and he laughs at my wary look. Don't worry, they aren't alcoholic. Well, okay then. Don't mind if I do. I take one of the elegant-looking drinks off the tray and give it a sip. It has a very sweet and almost floral flavor to it. It's delicious. I thank the guy for the drink and he ambles off. Does Gray really have his own drink boy? How does he get away with these things? I polish off my drink at record speed just as Rayla joins me again. I am so glad you talked me into coming to this party. I needed the release. I'm pretty sure it was you who dragged me out the door. Whatever, it's still nice to be out, not thinking about school and stuff. You seem really stressed out about your classes. I just have a lot of pressure on me by my parents, by the Dryad community in general, by everyone really. I see the drink boy walk by again and snatch another of the pink drinks from his tray. These are really, really good. They don't seem to understand that I'm not really interested in returning to the Grove. I want to do something else with my life, like, I don't know, start a band or something. What's the Grove? Is that where you grew up? That's what we call a group of dryads. Kind of like witches have a coven, we have a grove. I see. So what kind of band would you start? Who knows? I'd have to actually learn to play an instrument first. Hey, you want to be in my band? As I'm considering this question, someone knocks into me from behind, causing me to lurch forward. My pretty drink goes flying, covering Rayla in the sweet liquid. Startled, I set the empty glass down on a nearby surface, and another magically appears in my hand, from the side of me. That drink boy is good. I turn around to face the culprit of the shoving, but the crowd is now so thick in here that I can't pinpoint who it was. I look back at Rayla, who's trying in vain to mop off the contents of my spilled drink off her shirt. I'm so sorry. Totally not your fault. It's getting really crowded in here. I'm gonna go clean this mess off me. Stay right here, okay? I nod and sip on my latest drink, observing the action around me. The crowd seems to have shifted somewhat, but I notice that I'm feeling a bit dizzy. Did the guy hit me on the head when he bumped into me? I sit down on the nearest available surface, but my spinning head doesn't seem to slow down. Suddenly, this party seems very loud. I place my face into my hands, willing my head to stop throbbing. Are you really so depressed to be here that you're sulking all alone in this corner? I look up to see Gray's face smirking at me. I apologize. I know I haven't paid you my fullest attention this evening. No, I'm just not feeling so well. Have you been drinking? Not that I judge you, of course. I have several vices myself. No, I just drank some of that juice your drink boy was passing around. Gray's eyebrows raise and he noticed the empty glass sitting beside me. He picks it up and looks at it. This drink, you mean? Yeah, he said it wasn't alcoholic. Well, it's not, for Radiance. What does that mean? This is shadeberry juice. It has a slight euphoric effect when consumed by Radiance, which is why it's a popular party drink. But it's known to have a more intense effect on humans. Oh. My head continues to pound and I put my face into my hands again. Come with me. Let me take you somewhere more quiet. I'm feeling much too terrible to protest, so I let him lead me through the crowded common area and into what I assume is his bedroom. It's much larger and fancier than my own. It's also empty and blissfully quiet. I sit on the bed and Gray disappears briefly, returning with a glass of water. How many did you have? I'm not even sure. Maybe 3? Well, no wonder. Drink this. I gulp the water gratefully and slump lower onto the bed. Gray immediately returns to the bathroom to refill my glass. So, was this the first instance of the lone human getting bamboozled by unfamiliar Radiant traditions? Hopefully it'll be the last. I would have warned you if I had seen you with the drink. You're pretty occupied with all your admirers. The words are out of my mouth before I can stop them, and I bite my tongue. Why did I say that? My, are you jealous? No. As if I haven't already made myself clear, I have no interest in overly flirty playboy types. No. My response comes out with a little more force than intended, but I think he gets the message. If he's upset by this news, however, he recovers quickly. Then maybe I can recruit you to be my wingman. I'm about to launch some sort of snarky response to this when we are interrupted by someone bursting into the room. Heather, there you are. I've been looking for you. You weren't where I left you. Are you okay? Her eyes dart between me and Gray, a look of distrust in her eyes. Don't worry, I'm fine. She drank the shadeberry juice. Oh, goddess, I'm so sorry, Heather. I saw you with the drink, but I didn't even consider that it would have an effect on you. I kind of forget you aren't a rad sometimes. It's okay, Rayla. Really, I'm okay now. Gray helped me. Rayla is still eyeing Gray suspiciously, but he seems unfazed. You should take Heather to bed, I think. Well, yeah, obviously I was going to. I'm really okay now. I attempt to convince them to stop fussing over me, but no one listens. Rayla scoops me off the bed, and I comply. My head protests the sudden movement, and I realize maybe I really should go to sleep. As we head for the door, I turn back to Gray. Thanks for the help. Anything for you. Barf. I've got it from here, Rose? Your public awaits in the other room. We exit the room and spill into the dark hallway. It's just then that it occurs to me that we have to repeat our sneaky entrance to avoid getting caught. Except with my dizzy head, I can barely walk straight. Rayla's clutching me tightly, but this is a struggle. Okay, you just need to go slow and try not to make too much noise. The dorm master usually doesn't leave his room, but he's got super hearing. Okay, I can do this. Apparently, I cannot do this. We almost make it to the stairway leading back to our dorm hall when I get nervous, sure that the dorm master's right behind us. I look back over my shoulders and stumble forward, causing both Rayla and myself to come crashing down to the floor. Almost immediately, we hear loud footsteps echoing down the darkened hallway. What do I do? Should we run? Oh no. The dorm master is in front of us before I even get a chance to stand up. Well, what do we have here? A couple of young ladies sneaking into the men's dormitory? Rayla and I both remained silent, not wanting to let on that we were sneaking out and not in. I am sure you know this is a serious infraction of the Sarenvale rules. It brings me no pleasure, but I must give you both 10 demerits. Judging by the grin on his face, it does give him pleasure, but we both stick to our silence. Now be on your way. We arrive back in our room and I breathe a huge sigh of relief. I'm not sure sneaking around is good for my health. Pretty sure that's just the shadeberry juice. I'm sorry I got you in trouble. Oh, forget about it. It was worth it. I want to agree, but I'm far too tired to express it. All I can manage is to fall into my bed, clothes still on. It takes all of my energy to pull myself out of bed in the morning. My pounding headache is gone, but I still feel exhausted. However, today is my second Azurite class, the class I've been most looking forward to all week. I need to pull it together. I straighten myself up as much as possible and head out the door, feeling better already. When I arrive in the Azurite classroom, Professor Balin is nowhere to be seen. Instead, another semi-familiar face is in front of the class. It's the guy who walked me to the dorm house the other day. Arian, I think? Our first meeting had been a little frosty, so the jury's still out on whether or not this person is anything but a stuffy intellectual. Students, please take your seats. There's a bit of commotion as the students around me whisper among themselves. It looks like they're just as surprised to see Arian as I am. Where's Professor Balin? Professor Balin is away on important business. As I am his assistant, I will be leading the class today. You may call me Mr. Phalis. Until now, you've been concentrating mostly on theory, and while a good foundation is important, it is useless without practical application. So today we will be conducting a more constructive exercise. He turns and looks straight at me. You, what is your name? Does he not remember that we've met before? Rayla did say he didn't pay much attention to the underclassmen. I guess she was right about that. My name is Heather Ashe. And what is it that you do? I tried to remember how Professor Balin had described my abilities during our first class. Well, I suppose I have a form of precognition? So, future sight. Not an unuseful skill, but also woefully limited on its own. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be offended by what he is saying, but I don't have time to react because he continues. Are you able to summon your visions on demand? Not really. Not really? They kind of just come whenever they want. I can't really make them happen. And when they do come, are you able to interpret them correctly? I think for a moment, feeling like I'm suddenly in a freaking inquisition here. I've had a handful of visions in my short time at Sarenvale, but thus far they've been so jumbled together that it's been nearly impossible to understand any of them. I've been so focused on trying to control when the visions happen that I haven't considered what I'd do with them when they finally appeared on command. I take it by your silence that you have not, in fact, been able to decipher your visions. I open my mouth in feeble protest, but he turns his back to me and addresses the class. This is a perfect example of abilities gone to waste. A person with unutilized talent may as well not have those abilities at all. If you cannot control your mind, then the world will control you. It seems Miss Ashe has a lot of work to do. I hope the rest of you are not as grievously behind. I stare, bristling with frustration. I've been at Sarenvale for less than 2 weeks. How am I expected to already be able to control the abilities I barely knew I had until recently? I'm tempted to tell him as much, but I'm not sure I can remain polite at the moment. I am also not sure it will do any good. Let's just keep quiet. There's no point in arguing with this guy. However, his attitude makes me more determined to master these visions, just to prove him wrong. The class continues with Arian pairing us up with other students of like-minded abilities. I'm paired with Luria, a mousy sort of girl that specializes in remote viewing. Instead of seeing the future, she sees the present, but can only see it over short distance. Our exercise is an interesting one. I hold an image in my hand, and Luria attempts to describe to me what is in the image using only her remote viewing. She's very good at it, which sort of makes me feel even worse about my own lack of control. When it's time to swap, Arian approaches us. I feel the hairs on my arm stand up, as if his icy demeanor is actually emanating a cold aura. This exercise will work a little differently with your precognitive abilities. Instead of attempting to see what is on the card your partner is holding, you will attempt to discern the contents of the card before she picks it up, and draw its contents in your notebook. Drawing can sometimes help the seer channel their visions in a more accessible manner. I think you will find this method advantageous. I have absolutely no idea how to do that, but I don't want to admit it to this guy. However, he's not fooled. It's apparent you have never attempted this sort of thing before, so it's unlikely you'll be able to succeed right away. However, you must concentrate on the card that is about to be drawn. Close your mind to everything else and allow your vision to penetrate that image. The way he describes it, it's as if it's the most simple and obvious thing in the world instead of a completely abstract concept. Penetrate the image? I'm not even sure what that means. I wait for Arian to leave, as I'm not really sure I want him looming over me as I make an attempt at this, but he does not go anywhere. Well, Miss Ashe, what are you waiting for? I give a little sigh and close my eyes, my hands poised over my notebook, a set of multicolored crayons at my disposal. I envision the stack of cards on the table, willing myself to see what is under the first card. Nothing happens at first, but I continue to concentrate. Penetrate the card, he had said. I imagine the card is in the stack, becoming transparent enough that I can see what is on the other side. And I begin to get brief flashes in my mind. It's working. It's mostly blurry colors, nothing with any real shape. The flashes move so quickly that my mind can't focus on any one thing. Usually when a vision comes to me, I just sit there, taking in the visions passively. This time, it's different. My hands automatically reach for crayons and move across the rough paper of my notebook. At this point, any normal person would want to open their eyes to see what is being drawn, but somehow I know that will break my concentration and ruin everything. I just have to let it do what it wants and pray it will become something that actually makes sense. My eyelids flutter rapidly as the flashes in my mind become faster, brighter. It takes only minutes for the entire process to complete, and yet it feels like much longer inside my head. When my hand finally stops, I open my eyes tentatively. I look down at my notebook and make a small noise of dismay. This drawing isn't anything. It's just a collage of colors blended into each other. There's no discernible object or scene. So unless that image in the stack is some sort of abstract art, I've just failed this experiment. Seeing the look on my face, Luria looks apprehensive as she turns over the card on the stack. I look at the card and my face falls. It's a photo of a red bicycle on a field of bright green grass, and it's nothing like what I've drawn. The colors aren't even the same. My drawing consists of blues and yellows, not reds and greens. I couldn't even get the basic colors right. Arian looks on, his expression unreadable. He thinks I'm a failure, obviously. And aren't I? Luria has been able to use her vision to complete the exercise with relative ease. Me, on the other hand... Wait, look at this. I look away from Arian's stern face and back towards Luria, who has pulled the second image off the pile. This image is of an ocean and a bright yellow sun. I look again at my drawing. The colors actually match. Almost like I've drawn a blurred version of the image as seen by someone with really terrible eyesight. Not exactly as expected. This vision is as good as useless. But it's a start. Keep at it, Miss Ash. He stalks off then, heading towards another pair of students. Luria beams at me and I can't help but smile back. Great job, Heather. Arian might not have been completely impressed, but this is as close as I've ever gotten to having a real, purposeful vision. I may have missed my mark a bit, but I did manage to actually produce an image on purpose. I won't let his impossible expectations sour my very first success story. When the class ends, I exit into the hallway with a spring in my step. Time for today's elective. Okay. I think this is where we're going to go ahead and end. In the next one, we'll pick up with electives, and then we should be getting into the weekend. So there should be some events then. But yeah, I guess that's going to be everything for this time, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!